What's going on, guys? My name is Paulo. This is Kieran, and that is Liz. And
Hi.
we are across the pond plus guest.
Across the pond
Liz,
plus.
Liz is the guest. This is a throwback to episode 23, where we had Liz, and we are happy to announce that she is back. And we're ready for
I think happy is pushing it.
Happy is pushing it.
Whoa!
Okay. I'm delighted. Content. We are content that she has returned.
We have no strong feelings either way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. We love you, Liz.
I don't know if you should use the word we there. I think that might be displacing feelings. But anyway. Not really sure where to start. But that is how every episode of Across the Pond begins. So, with that being said, I will leave it up to Kieran to basically control and run the show as he always does.
I do. Like you do the intro and the outro, but without me, there is no show.
Okay. Yes.
You just okay. So some of you may remember from episode I want to say 18. I don't know why, but that's what I think. Where we covered once Paolo stopped making a fuck ton of noise.
I'm not making a fuck ton of noise.
You kind of were.
Okay. Anyway, continue.
You done?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
done.
good.
I'm done.
Okay, so yeah, it was like episode 18 where we watched a video by a charity called Because I Said I Would. It's a charity that I've followed for a little while, basically. It was a man who he approached the charity and posted on their YouTube channel a video of him confessing to killing someone, because they were drunk and they tried to drive home. Well, there has been an update video it's basically that video was uploaded a year ago, and so they've done sort of a 1 year later thing. So I thought, it's something we spent a while talking about. That was pretty much an entire episode was spawned off of this video. So I'm going to drop you the link in the Skype. Yeah, this is the follow-up video.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to watch it because of my headphones. I remember that, the guy who posted that video.
Okay. Where is the monitor capture? Nope, that's not what. Okay, here we go. Don't worry. Okay. There we go. Awesome. Swerve.
I mean, it's difficult to really say what I'd be doing if I was still out there right now, if none of this ever happened, because what I was doing wasn't anything positive, and it was all really meaningless in the end. And now that I've had those freedoms taken away, I can really see how meaningful the little things really are. Just going to hang out with my grandparents and talk to them, and make their day just by being there with them. Being able to go to the grocery store, and being able to go on a walk. Just even that, without doing anything else, that'd be a better day than I've had, for this year and for the rest of the time that I'm going to be in here. The exact night that brought me here is one that could have happened, 1,000 times. I went out drinking, with some friends, and eventually made the decision to get into my truck and got on the road after I'd been drinking very heavily, and unfortunately I collided with another vehicle and took the life of an innocent man. I led myself down a path of horrible choice after horrible choice, and kept thinking I could get away with it, but eventually it's going to catch up to you like it did to me. My hope is that everyone can make the promise not to drink and drive. not to make destructive decisions that could affect others negatively. But if you're not at that point yet, and if you are struggling, make the promise to seek help. Make the promise to reach out and ask for someone's hand. If we can all do that, then we're taking a step in the right direction. Think about what you're doing with your freedom out there, because once you're in here, you just fade away.
What's up, Sonny? You guys just linked the video? Or no? Did everyone see the video?
Yep.
Alright, so I guess I will start by saying that it's interesting because I don't really. It's funny because it just kind of shows how honesty goes a really long way. Like, this guy is kind of. I mean, people commend him, and he's almost like a hero type figure for coming out and confessing to killing someone. Obviously, like, it's great that he did that, but he still killed someone, and I don't understand why so many people are. It's more commentary on society. Like, that's good of him to do it, but the fact that everyone is jumping up on his praises or whatever is a commentary on the fact that just people are just so dishonest about it that when someone is actually honest about the crime they committed, people like praise them, you know. It's like, you did a bad thing, but you owned up to it, so everything is all good. Well, obviously it's not all good. He still got his punishment, but people know who he is. He's getting his name out there, and people will consider him a quote-unquote good person, even though he did something really bad. No,
I mean, the thing is, when he gets out of prison, which I don't know what the sentence was. I think it was a few years at least.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably not gonna be in such a bad situation like most people who go to prison for that sort of thing do, and it's kind of sad that the reason he is going to be, you know, okay when most people wouldn't, is because at first he didn't own up to what he did. The fact that he waited, and the fact that he then did it through this charity, did it in this weird way rather than just, you know, going to a police station and owning up. I mean, it's made him semi-famous, I guess. I mean, if he was to go for a job, you know, if people were to do a background check, at first they'd be like, okay, drunk driving incident, that's something we should worry about. But when they see the video, you know, it's like, okay, this guy's a minor celebrity. If we can get him working for us, that might be a good thing for publicity. So it might also be a bad thing, but I never know what to think, because on the one hand, he did do something shitty, and he did kill someone. But on the other hand, him owning up about it and the way he's gone about it, on the one hand, yeah, it only happened because he didn't own up to it in the first place. But on the other hand, it is raising awareness for, you know, trying to stop drink driving, which in itself is a good thing. So so he is doing something good, but I don't know.
Is he a good person?
I mean, you can be a good person and make bad decisions. So that's really the I think the best way of looking at it. I wouldn't say he's necessarily a bad person because he made a bad decision. I mean, everyone makes bad decisions. It's just happened to be, you know, fatal.
Jail
Whether
for
or not
life.
he is. I mean, that's interesting. Personally, I mean, I disagree with you, Newcomb. I'll be honest, I disagree. Maybe you could expand.
What do you think, Liz?
I mean, it's different hearing, because like with most times when you see like people talking about like awareness for drunk driving, it's like this person was killed because someone, you know, was driving while drunk, so don't drive drunk. And I think it's completely different hearing someone who killed someone while drunk driving, saying like don't do it, and saying like this is what happened to me, this is how I feel, these are the consequences of it. It's not just physical, like, oh, you're gonna go to jail, but also was because a choice you made where you decided to go drink and then drive. So it's like it's different in that you're getting a different viewpoint, and so maybe it can persuade someone not to drink and drive. But I mean, I think because he owned up to it, he at least accepts that, like, listen, I did something wrong, and I might not be able to make amends just by saying this, but I'm at least, saying, like, I acknowledge that I did something wrong, and I'm gonna try and help you not make the same mistake that I did.
I also feel like on what Newcomb's saying, like, on a certain level, he basically just said, look at what I'm doing. I'm telling the truth because I did something bad, and I could have lied about it and gotten away with it. So because I'm turning myself in for killing someone, then you should consider me a good person.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, you can look at it from like a very cynical way, that he's just doing this, he's like going through the charity to make it look like he's a good person. And in reality, like, he's just saying, he's like, oh, look, because I didn't lie about killing someone, I'm okay, But at the end of the day, like, we can analyze his character, but he is raising awareness for drunk driving. So it's like, well, what do you do? I mean, it would be better. It would be better, honestly, if he did have a life sentence. I
mean, the thing is, it's difficult to judge whether he's a good or a bad person. The only person that can really know is him, because only he knows his reasoning, his intentions and stuff. But I mean, we live in a world of cynicism and pessimism, and it's just, I feel like a lot of people look at people with, they did a bad thing, so they must be a bad person. They see everyone as bad until they prove themselves to be good, and I personally think that's wrong. I think it should be, you should be a good person until you prove yourself as bad. And I mean, yeah, his decision was incredibly bad, but there are people that do it every day, and I think to focus on him because he did the right thing and was honest about it, no matter how he did it, I think is the wrong way to go about it. I mean, Sithbath just raised a good point. Were his intentions to kill? And no, they weren't. And I think that's the main point. He didn't get in the car. I mean, yeah, he got on the car drunk. That was his choice. But he didn't get in the car thinking, I'm going to get in this car drunk so I can go out and hit someone. And I don't know. Maybe it's just my way of seeing things. Maybe I'm just different to most people. But I like to think of people as, good people that make bad decisions rather than bad people that sometimes make good decisions.
don't know. I just feel like you find yourself less disappointed in life if you think everyone is a bad person who sometimes does good things.
I mean, I can go either way. I think some people are bad people. I mean,
definitely.
you've for those of you that were here when we talked about, I don't know, Justin Bieber and Nash Greer, just
Ian Watkins.
Yeah, they are bad people. Like I don't care. Like that's how I see them. But
See, Justin Bieber became a bad person. That's my take. Like, he could have been a good person with shitty music, but now he's just a bad person with shitty music.
yeah. There are people out there that I look at and just think. There are people out there who I just look at and think you are a bad person. But honestly, with this one, and I feel like I'm in the minority here. I feel like people don't agree with me, but.
No, I agree with you. Like, I don't know, it's just there are a lot of people who, yeah, you can say, like, that person's definitely bad because the bad outweighs the good, with their bad decisions and stuff. But, there are a lot of people who make good decisions constantly and then, like, a couple times do something bad, And I think that's more than the bad people who make good decisions.
Hello, Mai. Also, hello, everyone in the chat. It's good to see you. So Shift Bass, now knowing that it was a hit and run, what do you think? Do you think? It's an interesting topic. I don't think. And the fact is that he got there's justice. There was justice on every side, but it's like, was it enough? You know.
Yeah. It's weird because the first time we talked about this, I don't think Nukem was here when we did that episode, but the chat was generally sort of along the same mindset as me, that he was doing something good by, you know, owning up to it and trying to you know, reduce the number of drunk drivers. And I don't know. It all depends on whether he is actually remorseful, which I assume the reason he owned up is because he is.
Yeah, and if you think about it, when you're drunk, you're in a completely different state of mind. So, like, obviously, you know, most of the time, because of the drunk driving accidents, it's, you know, with your sight and slower reaction and stuff, but also it's your psychologically, you know, different. So it's like you might get into something like that and, like, you're thinking, oh my god, what do I do? And you don't react the way you would if you were sober. And then probably after realizing, like, you know, once he's sober, like, I did this and I didn't do anything then, I can do something now. Because now I know, like, this is what I did and I'm sober, so I can go and make the right choice in that, you know, owning up to it. While when you're drunk, you're, like, gonna be scared and you're gonna be like, I don't know what to do, and just probably drive away.
I mean, I just suddenly thought about it, and I mean, this is the situation with Yoti Slayer, which is something we avoided talking about because we had like our third show after he died. Yeah. And I mean, he died because he got into the car when he was drunk and tried to beat a train, basically. And
he killed 2 other people.
Yeah, there were 2 other people in the car with him who also died. And he was celebrated. I mean, sure, yeah, it's a different situation. He actually died while the I can't remember his name, the guy from the video, he's obviously still alive, and it's a little bit different. But Yoti Slayer, well, he was celebrated for weeks afterwards. People were
for his life, yeah.
Yeah, and it's sort of the same situation, if you ask me. Like, sure, maybe, yeah, he died, and sure, he had a lot of fans and stuff. I can't even remember how many subs he had on YouTube, but I see it as the same situation. I don't see it as, you know, there were 3 people in that car, all drunk, so it's all their fault. I see it as he made the decision to drive that car and let other people get in with him. I see it that he killed them, and so I find it weird that we can place blame and, you know, bad negative thoughts on this guy who's now doing something about it to try and change things, when we had someone like Yoti Slayer who, yeah, it was just one bad decision, sure, but he ended up killing the 2 other people in the car. He was the driver, Nukem. I think there was, for a few days, there were people saying that he wasn't trying to, like, clear his name, but no, he was confirmed as the driver. I mean, it was his truck that.
And they said they found the police. The police said they found him in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
It's just sad. It's like, yeah, he had a good life, but I also feel like how you die also has an impact on, like, how you live, you know? What I'm saying, like, okay, so take it from the positive standpoint. Yeah, when you take a look at someone like Zach Sobiek, I mean, I think most people are familiar with that story. In fact, the kid was 18-year-old kid, diagnosed with cancer, had very few months to live. He opted to not go through life-crippling treatment and chose to die, chose to, you know, live the last 6 months of his life in fairly good health as cancer ate away his life. And people, you know, they, like, obviously rightly so, they praised his life. They praised they looked at every good thing that he did in his life, and it became even greater. And that was because of how he was dying. And if you look at it from the reverse side, how you die, if you die in a bad way, people still praise your life. You know, why wasn't Yodi's death an impact on what he did in life? You know, because it's like people were because he helped out so many people. You know, he had this like overwhelming generosity to him. It was really admirable, and it was really great to see some 500,000 channel help out a younger growing channel. But these younger growing channels, when he died, had no choice. Basically, they had no choice but to thank him and to praise his life and to really just respect him for everything that he had done for their lives. Because like, what else are you gonna say? You know, you feel like an asshole if you basically bash the guy. But honestly, the truth is the truth. And the people who came out and spoke out against what he did, against making the choice to like get in that truck and try and beat a train, those people were destroyed because, I mean, I don't know, for whatever reason, people just didn't agree. They said it was disrespectful because he was dead. They're like, what? Like, no, sorry. Like, if this was any random person, we would have been saying like, oh my gosh, like what a terrible way to live. And I mean, people say that like, I mean, the people who know him better, obviously, there are people who say that he had problems, that he couldn't have been controlled, and I don't know. I think that it's a very difficult and a very touchy situation, because when someone affects your life in like that good of a way, it's almost like you're in denial. You know, you can't believe that he killed 2 people and himself.
And you don't want to believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with that, I would have to say, is just like, I've never been in a situation where I'm like going to possibly be getting in a car, you know, to drive drunk, and I don't think I'm ever going to put myself in a situation like that. But then again, it's like, you may be the type of person who says, I'm not going to drive drunk or whatever, and if you have like, say, a friend who is sober, you know, to keep you either from driving or to be your designated driver, it's like, that's a different situation. But if like, say, everyone there is drunk, your mindset might change to just, oh yeah, I'm fine to drive, and no one's gonna stop you probably. So it's like, you never know exactly what the mindset is that keeps you, or that lets you do that.
I don't know. He was a good guy. He was a good person to people. Yeah. Right? And he just made some really see you later, Sith Bass. He made some really poor choices. But just because he made those poor choices, like, you can talk about those poor choices. You can talk about what, I mean, like, one of his closest friends was CJ Garoff, and I remember him being so upset at the way his friend handled his life. And like, yeah, you're allowed to be mad at him, because that was a terrible thing that he did. He left behind his family, left behind his girlfriend. And that was like a really shitty thing to do. And I felt like that people who wanted to talk about that, people who wanted to be honest about it, were just destroyed, were just criticized, you know, because he was famous, because he helped people, because he made videos on the internet that changed people's lives, you know. And if you took a look at this guy, is his name Brian?
I think it was Matt.
Or Matt. The you know, because I said I would guy. You know, he isn't anyone. Yeah, he's somewhat of a mini internet celebrity now because of what he did. But if people took shots at him, people would be like, "Oh, well, I see where you're coming from," you know. And it almost was like sacrilege, you know.
I think it's interesting. I mean, we've all been on YouTube for a while. And we know that YouTube comments are basically poison. But it's really strange, because I'm reading the comments, and all of them are positive towards him. Like, I've gone all the way down to the bottom. I've looked at every single comment, and from what I can see, there is not a single person that is speaking out negatively against him. So I don't know. Maybe the consensus is generally that he is a good person.
I think he is a good person. But like, what if he had killed someone, or what if he had, like, you know what makes me sick is that if he had raped a girl, people would have said she was asking for it.
That actually makes me think about. There's something going on in England at the moment. There is a football player, Ched Evans, who he was convicted of raping a girl. You know, he served his time in prison and stuff, and he's recently come out of prison, and the football team that he played for before he was convicted is now considering re-signing him to play for them again. And there is outrage because, you know, this guy he was convicted of raping someone, and you know it's a very split between people saying, you know, he is remorseful and stuff. He has served his time. He should get to play again. We shouldn't stop him from doing the only thing that he can actually do. Well, the only thing
For a lot of sports people, that is true, though.
It is. I mean, he spent his whole life playing football. That's how it is in England. You don't just get into football randomly. You play football for your entire life. You leave school early. So he will have no qualifications whatsoever because he would have left school to play football. So he basically he's not going to be able to get a job anywhere else without some serious luck, and he's not going to get that luck because he's now a convicted rapist. So basically, his only chance of getting work is to keep playing football.
Be re-signed, yeah. It's because people hold sports higher than actual human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For example, like with that Rice incident, you know, people. Granted, that's a little, you know. It's just like they had the video, you know, of them getting into him dragging her out of the elevator in like February, and then recently they had like the video from the elevator, not a separate incident, the same incident, where before that video came out, they said, listen, it happened, we're both, you know, we're working through it, and even his now wife, who was his fiance at the time, was like, yeah, you know, we're okay. But, you know, then that he was, you know, everyone came out and was in an outrage, and then people came out against the NFL because, especially with other ones, the football player who was like, charges are being brought up against him because he like whipped his son with
Adrian Peterson, yeah.
Yeah, and someone else. But also with, you know, look at the situation with Jameis Winston, how much trouble he's been getting into.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the fact there was like the convictions of rape or sexual assault, and then like most recently there's the thing with the autographs, but also the fact that he got up on a table and, you know, said the phrase that everyone seems to love, fuck her right in the pussy. And it, you know, it's not okay, honestly though, you know, you were, you know, someone came to the police and said, you know, he raped me. You were being looked into for that rape case, and you're gonna stand on a table and say that? You think people are not gonna look at you and say, oh, you know, if he says that, I wouldn't doubt that he would do something like that. But look at what his punishment was. At first, it was a half-game suspension, and then I think moved it to a full-game suspension. I don't remember. But still, the fact that it was a half-game or a one... game suspension. It's like what happens to people if it's a sports player who does it to them. Because then they're like, oh, you know, it happened, but hey, they're like this big celebrity, this player. They're good. They're good. They get like maybe a little slap on the wrist.
I feel like in America there is a lot less action against celebrities. I mean, pretty much every TV or radio presenter in England from the 1980s is in prison for being a paedophile at the moment. So,
Oh man.
I don't know. Like, I wish I was kidding, but in the last 5 years or so, at least 7 or 8 broadcasters from the 1980s, early 90s are in prison for being paedophiles. It's not good.
Don't really see too much of that here.
I don't know.
It's like if you're famous in the U.S., you basically have you have like immunity. I mean, your public reputation is going to take a hit, but you're going to be able to find work eventually. Yeah, you'll be able, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's no problem with you finding work.
I mean, I feel like just in general, the justice system in England is a bit more. I mean, it has its flaws, but I feel like against like celebrities and stuff, they don't shy away from stuff just because they're celebrities. I mean, if I were to walk out to one of the flats on the other side of my building, I could look at the prison where Ian Watkins is right now.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
I mean that's someone we've talked about on the show before when all that shit was going down. We had a little bitching session basically, to be blunt about it, but. Yeah, it does feel weird. It does feel weird being, so close to where he is. I mean, even worse. We have like a recording place you can record music and stuff in the university I go to. And when I went for like the tour around the building and stuff, this may not be true, and whatever. But the person who was giving me the tour told me that that Lost Prophets had recorded music in that studio, along with a load of other bands. But they told me Lost Prophets were one of the bands that recorded in the studio. And then about 3 weeks later, all that stuff went down, and he ended up in prison. So that's kind of weird. Luckily, it's none of the studios I'll ever have to use because I'm a radio student. But apparently that happened. So.
No, it's admirable when society convicts its famous people, But so many rappers are convicted of crimes because they just can't get away from it, and people are always like hashtag free this, free that, free this, free that. The whole free Bieber thing too.
Oh man,
I feel like so many people, in the whole social media train, are just obsessed with freeing their favorite celebrity, and it's like the U.S. is so money and materialistic centric that honestly, if enough people make an uproar about a celebrity, the justice system isn't going to put in the effort or the money required for conviction, and that's just really sad. Well, Liz apparently has to go
It's dinner time.
for a little bit or a lot of time.
It's dinner time. Real quick, it's gonna be a lot, but real quick, just thinking about that sports thing. There's one thing I wanted to say. Have you heard about what happened at Sayreville High School?
Mm-mm. What happened?
Was that on? But yeah, have you heard what happened at Sayreville High School?
No, what happened?
With their football team?
Mm-mm.
It's actually my hometown, our high school. Football team has been good for who knows how long. State champs, things like that. Recently, right before I think I left for England, or the week came back, they found out that there was hazing going on, and the hazing actually turned into sexual assault charges. And what they would do is basically just lights would go out in the locker room, and they just grab someone, hold them to the ground, and do whatever. And being a football-oriented town, because our team is so good, people are outraged that the season was canceled. The rest of the season.
Really?
Yeah. Now, granted, recently 7 kids were arrested in regards to it. And so say there's like 50 people on the team, say only like 10 were involved or 15. Do you think that the rest of the students should be punished, or should they be, allowed to play? The question though is, if this happened in the locker room, they knew about it and let it happen. So that's where the question comes in. Do they continue to play, or do they keep the season canceled?
Mm-hmm.
And that was it.
And is that where is that the note you're leaving on?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm just gonna. Ooh.
Okay. Just take. Okay. So if you like cancel, if you turn off the thing, like all the video settings are gonna get messed up. So you can just like just leave your like portrait up on the any meeting, or not. Never mind.
You told her not to do the thing, and she did the thing.
Oh, there she is. She heard us.
There we go.
Okay. Just leave it up. Just leave it up. You can't hear us. I mean, she can't hear us. Just leave it up. Also, how do you get the quality options on Better Twitch? No, what?
Dude, just right-click the video. Oh, it used to be what it is.
What does it say for you? It doesn't say anything anywhere, does it?
No.
Rude. Wow.
Do I have better Twitch?
I haven't installed.
Yeah, I have it.
That's
strange.
That's so strange. Oh well. I guess Google or Amazon buying Twitch messed it up. All right, bye, Liz.
Bye, Liz.
Anyway, should they continue? I think if there's a scandal, like imagine if a premier football team, there was some scandal involving the players or a group of players. Should they like suspend? What they suspend the players, or if the whole team was involved in some huge scandal? What do you think should be done? Do you cancel the season? Do you suffer the loss of that economic influence, or do you just...
What they would do, they wouldn't cancel the whole season, obviously. But what they would probably do is... they probably ban the players. I mean, if it was a Premier League team, they'd ban the players, but most Premier League teams have a decent, youth system, and they have reserve players and stuff. Most Premier League teams can have 30, 40 players potentially registered across 8 or 9 teams. So what would normally happen is the team would probably have the players involved suspended, and they have to play on with whatever players they had left. And if they didn't have enough players, then they'd forfeit the match. And if they forfeit so many, I think it's something like 3 matches in a season, then you get a massive points deduction, and so they'd get bad score in the league, they'd get relegated. And which means, and if you get relegated, that means bad money, which means you can't sign new players. There was something that happened in Scotland. I don't know the details of it. There was something to do with something financial went wrong with Rangers, who at the time were one of the biggest. There were 2 teams in Scotland that actually did well. That was Rangers and Celtic, and something happened with Rangers, and they ended up getting relegated. Something like 5 leagues. Like this happened between seasons, but they ended up getting relegated like 5 leagues. And so, I mean, they slowly built their way back up. I think they're League 2 now, so they're slowly catching back up. But yeah, they were just thrown out of the top league basically.
That's ridiculous. I don't know. I feel like in the sense of sports, I mean, we all love sports. At least Karen and I. I just feel like the excuses made for athletes and celebrities who are also sports stars are ridiculous, because their stories and their names become icons for society.
Yeah.
And it's not something that people want to destroy or people want to tear down. I mean, honestly, for some people, it would be like destroying a statue of Jesus. Yeah. Like, it would just be like toppling that down and saying, like, okay, Jesus was actually a male prostitute. Yeah. It would be saying something. That would be the equivalent of like saying it and like proving it as true.
Yeah.
Because that's what sports are for some people. People religiously worship teams, and I don't know. I think it's a part of society that is severely lacking in terms of the common sense department. So why is it that teachers who have, honestly, some of the hardest jobs, if not the hardest jobs, in the entirety of the society, the biggest responsibility in all of society in terms of educating the future of America, the future of the UK, the future of the entire world, they get paid shit. I mean, unless you're a university professor, you're making less than $60,000 a year, or less than like £30,000 a year. So you're really not making good money.
Yeah.
And when you look at the number of people who have their lives influenced directly by a teacher, because I can think of so many people who cite their greatest mentors or their greatest advocates in terms of their success. It's oftentimes their tutors, their teachers, people who have academically inspired them or taught them skills. And these people, like, they don't get paid. And if this person, like, if a teacher does something bad, oh, it's over. Like, if a teacher looks at a student the wrong way, oh, it's over. The teacher never gets another job. They have to go on welfare. Basically, they're homeless. They lose everything in their lives. But sports star does it. It's like, oh, no big deal. We'll sweep it under the rug. They have an entire organization backing them up, and you just can't challenge it because, okay, here's the thing: we give power to the teachers. Like in the United States, public school teachers have the power to teach, have their salaries funded by taxpayers, and the taxpayers are people like you and me. And when something bad happens with a teacher, we can support them, but we really don't have any power. I mean, we just pay the taxes, but we don't directly pay them. But if sports star does something bad, they have an entire multi-billion-dollar corporation behind them. I mean, I'm assuming if if the biggest Premier League star did something bad, like he'd have the entire Premier League backing him up, trying to cover it up. Maybe he wouldn't succeed, but I mean, I know in the case of the NFL, like Ray Rice is a player who brought a lot of revenue to Baltimore, the Baltimore team, and so of course he had like the $2 billion corporation that is the NFL protecting him, and you can't challenge that as a society because normal people don't have $2 billion. So how can you take on a corporation that big? It's really just like a losing battle where sports stars. And don't get me wrong, I love sports. I spend most of my days doing something sports related, but it's honestly something that really ruins our society.
Back on the note of teachers and how they can literally have their entire career ruined. Something that happened in the town where I live, I think I've told you about this before, Paolo. At my old school, there was basically a bunch of students that they weren't doing well in class, and they were constantly being pushed by these teachers. You need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do the other, otherwise you're going to fail your exams. And they got really bitchy, and they got really pissed off that these teachers were hounding them constantly, and so they went to the important people that run the school and suggested that these teachers were making sexual advances. They were trying to instigate things they shouldn't. And one of the teachers, like one of the ones that was sort of at the center of the whole controversy, he was my head of year for 4 years.
Oh wow!
And I'm just going to put it bluntly, he was a good man. I mean, we were talking about whether you can judge people on whether they're good or bad. No, this guy, he was a good man. He cared more than any other teacher I'd ever met, and I honestly wouldn't expect any of these allegations to be about him to be true, and I still don't believe any of them. I mean, sure, he was friendly, he wasn't afraid if you did something well, he wasn't afraid to give you a hug, or if you were really upset about something, he'd comfort you and stuff. But he wasn't like that. He was married, he had kids, and he was generally a good person. And there was a group of them, like 4 or 5 teachers, that all ended up getting hit by this group of people. I don't know how many it was, whether it was 3, whether it was 5 or 20 odd that all decided they were going to do this, and all of them basically got told by the owners of the school, the people in charge, either you walk out of this school now and we'll give you a good reference, or you don't, and we'll take these allegations as true, and you'll be fired. And honestly, I thought that was the most disgusting thing I've ever heard in my life, because I didn't have all the teachers, and there was one, maybe two of them that if I'd have just heard it was those two, I might have thought, wow, okay, didn't expect it, but I guess I can believe that. But there were 5 or 6 of them, and I had most of them at some point over my time at school, and I wouldn't have expected it of any of them. I still don't. You know, the allegations were never proven. They all ended up walking out the school, because they're not going to risk losing their job and their career over it. But
That's messed up. It's messed up.
It's a real shame, because not so long ago I was going to go back to the school, talk to the old head of year, and I was going to, you know, because he was one of the people, when I went through the worst of my depression, he was one of the people that was actually there for me. He was one of the people that was actually, you know, supportive. You know, most of that school was absolutely terrible. There was next to nothing in place for people suffering with mental health issues. I mean, they had an on-site counsellor who, for the entirety of my of year 10, wasn't there, and for like the first half of year 11 wasn't there. You know, and the person they had in place, basically, it was constantly just, you know, pat on the head, sit in this room for 10 minutes to cheer yourself up, then go back to lesson. It was absolute shit. But he was one of the people that actually, you know, tried to do something about it. I mean, I don't want to go into detail about some of the stuff. There was a situation. I don't want to go into detail about it because it involves other people and it's, you know, private to them. But there was a situation where Liz came back. Okay. But yeah, there was a situation when one of my friends, they went missing. They were expected to be in lesson, and I knew they weren't. I knew that they were not in class for reasons that they were bad, basically. And so I went and I reported it, and he sat with me the entire time. I mean, we had the police in and everything, but he sat with me the entire time. It was basically like, look, I'm not leaving until this gets sorted out. I mean, this was a very close friend of mine. I was in a really shit state for that entire day. I mean, I went to first lesson because the people who tried to sort it were fucking terrible. They shouldn't have sent me to lesson, basically. And then for the rest of the day, I was, you know, taken out by this head of year. And he was, as I said earlier, he was a good person. He had his entire career ruined.
That's
or
awful.
Could have had. But again, it's like you said, if it was a sports star, nothing would have come of it. But because it's a teacher, because, I mean, I get they're in a position of care. They're in a position where they have influence and they have responsibility over children, and so if that sort of allegation comes up, if that sort of situation is potentially there, they have to do something about it. But, you know, this was a group of teachers that I know never would have done it, never would have done anything, and I know were good people because they actually showed me. I mean, most people, I mean, you were saying earlier about people who have had their lives changed and inspired by teachers. Like, some of these teachers were that to me, and I don't know, it was shitty. And I know I just went on a sort of a mini rant there, but it's because it was shitty.
I guess, like students just have so much power to ruin teachers' lives. You know, that's just the way that the system works. You know, it's almost a thankless job in the sense that you have very little security because the students can just decide that they don't like you and they can destroy your lives. I mean, that's as simple as that. And you give everything to them, and what do they give you? Yeah, you have a couple good ones who give